Today on exploring Lottie State Machine, I make this interactive map navigation animation. So let me quickly show you what the animation looks like, the whole flow of the animation. Then I'm going to completely break it down, show you from the animation stage and to how I've segmented the animation, then how I've added interactivity to the animation. So this is what it looks like. When I click on play, it just starts the whole session. So it starts with this the introduction animation. Let me play that again. We have this scaling animation for the go button, and it continues looping this particular go button, so people know this can be clicked. This is actually a button that can be interacted with. So when I click on go, it brings out the navigation card. So this is for walking. This is for the distance between the locations that were shown a couple of seconds ago. So this is the distance between those locations, and it's going to take you the distance is 6.8 kilometers, and if you are walking, it's going to take you 1 hour 10 minutes. But if you want to see the information, what the information will be, the navigation information, if you are driving, you can easily just click on driving, and it's going to show you that, and it's going to show you your speed and everything. So this is experimentation, so I didn't really put a lot of effort into the whole design and the whole elements of the cards. So I just wanted to really figure out what the animation and the interactivity will be before I start doing something elaborate. So at this stage, you can either just click on either driving or walking to see the information on the cards, and you can also click on this X button to go to the beginning of the animation. So I'm just going to click on the X button now to go to the beginning of animation, and then you can start the interaction from the beginning again. So let me break down this animation and how the whole interactivity works. So I'm going to go back to the animate tab of Lottie Creator. So I started this animation in After Effects. Not that I started in animation, I did all of the animation for this particular card display in After Effects. So this is like the beginning of the animation, where we have a position animation for these two boxes, the toe and the front box, and then we have a scaling and opacity animation for the go button. So it just slides out. The two boxes for the front two, they move out of the way, and we have a scaling animation for the go button. And then it does this little loops of it actually pulsing, so the user can know this can be interacted with. I didn't want to leave it in a static position just like this, because the user might not really have an idea if it can be interacted with. So I made this little loop session where it's essentially pulsing, and this is something that you can interact with. And then we move on to the next stage of the animation, where the button is clicked and they all move out of the way to let the cards essentially move in. And then we have the walking card. If you are walking, this is what the distance and the time will be. And then we have this little animation here of that progresses as you walk, this one right here. And then a little after that, we transition to the driving card, where you can see if you are driving, what time will be, some other information like your driving speed and all of those things. So that's that about the animation. Then we have another return animation from driving to walking. You see why that is important in a minute when I start making the interactivity of the animation in Lottie State machines. And then the animation ends here, and then I have this little X button that comes in once at this particular stage. This stage where the cards come in, we have that X button that has a scaling animation. So I intentionally put that there so that once the user gets to the end of the flow, they can easily return to the beginning of the animation. So let's just go to Lottie State Machines and Creator to add the interactivity to this animation to make it interactive. So what I do is I imported the animation. You can simply just drag and drop in any JSON animation. It can be in JSON, but if you also use the Lottie file for After Effects, what's it called, plugin, you can easily import your animation into your workspace and then open them from the Lottie Creator. But for this particular animation, I exported JSON with body movie, and then I just drag and dropped it into my Lottie Creator canvas. Then what I did after importing it is I broke down the scene, because once you import a JSON animation, it will most likely import it as a scene, which is like the After Effects equivalent of a pre-composition. So it brings it in as a pre-composition. So you can just right click on that pre-composition and then you break the scene. That is like opening the pre-composition. So you have all of the animated layers in the main scene. Why that is important is, for example, things like the X button, you see later on, if you have this in a pre-composition, they are not going to show in state machines when you are trying to add interactions to your animation. You see what I mean in a minute. But that's the first thing I do once I import any kind of animation in JSON or .lottie format. It can be in JSON, it can be in .lottie format into my Lottie Creator canvas. I break the scene. Sometimes if the scene is very, very heavy, breaking it might be difficult. You can just copy the elements you need, like the buttons that you need to be interacted, copy it from the pre-composition and bring it into the main scene, so that you can easily access them in Lottie state machines. So after importing your animation, the next thing you need to do is create segments for your animation. So for this particular part, I've created some segments here. So this is how you create segments. If you don't know how to create segments in Lottie state machines, you just click on this button here that says segments, and then you can start you can start adding in and out points, just like you do in After Effects. These are your bars for, this is like for the in point, and this is for your out point. This other one here, you can move them around. Then once you've gotten a section that you want to be a segment, after you've selected your in and out point for that segment, you can just click on segment button and you click on add segments to make that a particular segment. So what I've done is I've added segments that I want to represent like major milestones for the interactivity of the animation. I've added them into the animation as segment. I'll show you what those segments is in a minute once I move to state machines to start adding interactivity. So I have a couple of segments here. I have the initial scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll show you what the segments look like in a minute. So I've added, this is just like a broad overview of the animation. I've added the segments. So let's move to Lottie state machines to start adding interactivity into the animation. So for you to move from the animate section to the Lottie state machine section, you just have to click on state machines on the upper right corner of the Lottie Creator canvas. And this is it right here. This is what I show in the beginning. So I'm going to completely break down this scene. I'm going to remove all of the transitions, and then I'm going to build from the beginning, so you can see how I build these animations from the beginning, the interactivity of the animation, not the animation itself. So I'm just deleting the transitions that make the interactivity works. So this is the initial scene. Let me just play that on its own so you know what that looks like. So it just consists of that part of the beginning of the animation where we essentially, okay, I think I still have one more transition here. Let me just delete that. So like I was saying, this is the initial part where the two buttons, the from and the toe buttons, so to speak, where they give way to the go button to come in to have that particular to make that particular transition happen. So what I want is from this particular point, I want it to move into this particular scene, this first scene loop where the button is pulsing. So I want it to move from that first stage to this particular stage of the animation where the button will pulsing, will continue pulsing until a user interacts with this go button. For example, when a user clicks on go, then it can display the cards of the animation. So the next stage of the animation, the next segment will be this particular stage where the three buttons, the from, to, and the go buttons, they move out of the way for the navigation cards to come in. So that will be the next thing that I want to display. Then I want this to now move from here to the driving, this particular segment here. Let me just play that segment. that shows the driving navigation card information instead of walking. So this will be based on users' inputs. So I want it to be that when a user clicks on this menu here, this driving rectangle here, so the animation will move from this particular stage to, say a user clicks on driving, it will now move to this particular stage where it shows the driving card. Then from there, I also want it to be that if the animation is in this driving card state, when a user clicks on walking, it moves into this particular segment where it shows walking. Then I want to make it that a user will be able to um, they'll be able to transition between driving and walking as they deem fit. Also, they should be able to click on the X button so that they will move to the beginning of the animation. So I know that's like a lot to take in, but let me just quickly show you how that will work in real life scenario. So I'm thinking of making like full sessions. This is more of a quick breakdown. So if you would be interested in like full sessions of adding interactivity to animation, especially animations from After Effects, please let me know in the comments so I can make like a full-on video on all of that. But let me show you how I've constructed this particular animation, the interactivity of the animation. So like I said, I want this initial scene to play in the beginning and then moves to this scene where we have the go button pausing, and I want this to loop. So the first thing I need to do is to make a connection between this scene. So once this particular scene plays, it automatically moves to this particular scene. So what will happen is I want to add a completion action. This is called, once you click on any of the segments, you have this segment menu. So this is unique to each segment, and this is like some options you can use for each segment of the animation. So I want it to fire an event. So before you can, okay, let me quickly show you what inputs are. So before you can add an event, you need to add them through input. So in Lottie state machines, inputs are what drives your animation. So for your animation to move from one segment to another, you need an input. So input is different from interactions. So input is like the main building block of the animation. Then you can add interactions to those inputs. So for you to add inputs to your animation, you go to the top right corner here. There's the input and there's the interaction section. You can click on the plus icon, and there are different types of inputs here. There's boolean, there's event, there's numeric, there's string. But for this type of animations, what I want is an event, because for this, once this is completed, I want it to be like this is an event. This animation has completed, is an event on its own. Then that particular event can now drive other kind of maybe animations or interactivity. So for this animation, the whole interactivity, I'm going to be using event. So I've created some events here. The first event is initial scene initiated. So once this initial scene has completed, it has completed this animation. Let me play it again. It's going to trigger an event, and that event will be what I'll use to transition from this particular scene to the button loop. So how do you do that? Just click on plus, and then you give your event a name. It can be whatever you want, but I would advise you make it something you'll be able to recognize and something you'll be able to use once you are actually driving your animation. So you create your event, give it a name, and then you click on save. So I've created an event. This is it, the first event, initial scene initiated. So I'll click on initial scene, the first segment. Then I'll add this particular event. So I can remove it. Let me add it again. On complete action. So once this particular segment completes, I want it to fire an event. So what event is that? Click on plus, click on fire event. The input, the fire event is going to be initial scene initiated. So that's that for that. Then I want it, once that fires, I want this animation to move to this segment. So you hold the exit, the red sign, you click and hold it down, and then you connect it to the scene that you want it to transition to. So if I stop this and then I click on play again, it's going to play this because I've not added a condition for this particular transition. So it's just moving, it's totally ignoring this right now and moving to this scene. So if I click on stop and play, it's totally ignoring the first segments. So what I need to do is add a condition for this transition. So how do you do that? You click on the white line that connects the transition, and then you add a condition that says only do this if something has happened. So the condition of the transition is just saying this is what you look for this transition to happen. So what is the input? I want it to be this event has been fired. The initial scene initiated. That means the first scene has been played. You can now move on to the go button pausing that particular segment. So let me just click on play again to restart the whole section. And then you see this works as intended, because this is firing the events that yes, I'm completed, and this transition is taking that event. I'm letting the flow of the animation move through it to go to the first scene. So this will continue. This will not loop in the beginning because I've said some of these things. So what you have to do to make this loop is for you to click on this segment itself. Let me just stop that. Click on the segment, and then you can add a loop here. There's a loop section for each segment. Click on this particular button here, and then you click on the infinity symbol. That means it will continue looping until an interaction and input instructs it to move to another stage. So that is what that simply means. So let me play that again, see what it looks like. It finishes this particular scene, and then it moves here. Then it continues looping this particular section, and that is what I want this to continue pausing until a user clicks on go, and then the animation can move to the next stage, which is the go has been triggered, and these three cards can move out of the way for the driving and the walking cards. So how do we do that? We create another event, another input that moves the scenes from this particular segment to the next segment, which is the go trigger segment. So I've created that input. That means that is what I called the go click. That means the go button has been clicked. So that is very simple. Just click on the pause button again, give the input a name, and then click on events. Like I said, I'm using events for this particular animation, and then you click on save. So once that has been done, you can now connect these two segments. This is the first segment, this go button pulsing, and this is the next segment where the three cars move out of the way, and this I want to connect the two. What I simply need to do is to click and hold from this red button, and then I move it to the green button here, and then I click on the transition bar and then add a condition that looks for when the go button has been clicked. So this is it, go clicked, and then I X out of that particular transition menu. So let's play the animation again and see what that looks like. This is initiated, it moves to this, and it continues looping until if I click on this this button right here, this green flash icon in front of the go click, that is how you trigger inputs if you have not added interactions to them yet. So if I click on it, it's going to move to the next section. Let me just try that and see what it looks like. And it moves to the next section. And I don't want this to loop because I don't want the animation to repeat. If I loop it, it's going to repeat the cars moving out of the way. So I want this to stay at the end of the animation once that particular segment is complete. But I want it to make it such that when is in this particular stage and anybody clicks on this button, this driving, the small driving cards, the animation moves from this particular segment it is to this one where the driving card expands to show the details of the driving navigation. So again, I can create an event for that, and I've created this. That is why I called driving. So I'm going to connect these two again together, and then I'm going to do the same step, click on that, and I'm going to add a condition that once driving is clicked, you move from that particular stage to the next stage. So let's just play and test if that works properly. Then I'm going to click on go. Then I'm going to click on, from here I'm going to click on driving, and it moves to this. So from this particular stage here, the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure once the animation is at this stage and somebody clicks on walking, it displays the walking navigation card again. Again, It's simple. I just create an input, an event for that, which is why I called walking menu selected. And I'm going to connect. This is this next segment that shows what will happen when somebody clicks on the walking menu. Sorry. So I'm just going to connect the two segments. Then I'm going to click on this button, add a condition that lets that transition happen. That is, walking menu has been selected. So let me play the animation again and let's see how that works. So I'm going to click on go, click on driving, click on walking. So the next thing I want to do here is, at this particular stage, I want it to be that users can toggle between the two different cards, the walking and the driving. So, but since I've added the first transition, that means you can, from the driving menu, you can go to the walking. I need to add a reverse transition between the two. So when you are also at the walking menu, you can go back to the driving navigation card. So how do you do that? You just can simply drag a transition from the exit of the walking menu back to the driving menu. And then you add a condition that drives that particular animation. But since we already have an event for driving, we don't need to create another one. We just need to add the driving menu clicked as a condition for that particular transition to go back to the driving menu. So I've added that in, and let me just click on play and see what that all flow looks like. So from here, I'm going to click on go. Go has been triggered. I'm going to click on driving. Then from here, I want to go back to the walking menu. I'm going to click on the walking menu selected. Let me go back to driving. I'm going to click on driving. So from here, you can just move between driving and walking. If you notice, if you are very keen, if you are very observant, you will notice that I'm not actually interacting with the cards themselves or the go button from the canvas. That is because I've not added real interactions to this animation. Yes, I'm just doing the building blocks. I'm laying the foundation for the interactivity. So once I'm done with that, I can now start adding interactions to the animation. Making sure clicking the driving button on the actual canvas or wherever this animation is embedded is what drives the animation, not that somebody needs to come and start clicking the both icons here. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So another thing I want to happen is, I want that every time this X button is visible, at every stage where it is visible, I want a user to be able to click on it so that they can move to the beginning of the animation, like the first scene of the animation, once they click on the X button. So how do I do that? You've guessed as well. I create an input, which is an event for this particular animation for that. And I think I created one for that already. Yes, so this is it here. That is go to the first scene. So I can use this to drive transitions from any of these scenes to the beginning scenes, and that's what I'm going to do. So let me just play this particular section. I think this is where, let me start from the beginning. Go clicked. So this is where the X button is first visible. So I want it from this particular segment to the rest of the segment, the remaining two segments. Wherever the X button is visible, I want a user to be able to click it and go back to the first scene of the animation. So I've already created an input for that. Then I'm going to use that input to drive transitions between these three stages back to the initial scene, the first scene. So let me just hold this to make a transition. Then I'm going to add a condition to this transition. That is, whenever I'm telling state machines that whenever you see that the button go to first scene is clicked, move to the first scene of the animation. That's the first segment. So I'm going to do the same thing for this. Add the condition, go to the first scene. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this. Add the condition, go to first scene. So let's see what that looks like. So from here, I want to click on go. So it's visible here. Let me trigger the go to first scene and the go to first scene input and see what that looks like. I'm going to click on it, and it brings us to the first scene. Let's go to go clicked. Let's click on driving to bring us the driving card. Let's go back to walking. So for this particular stage, I want to try it. I'm going to click on the trigger the input for go to first scene. It works as intended. So let me go back to the driving menu. So I want to go to the driving menu and try the same thing. So this is the driving menu. So for example, if a user click on the X button from this stage, what happens? Let me trigger the input go to first scene, and it goes to the first scene as intended. So at this stage, I'm already done with the building block of my animation, the interactivity of the animation. So the next thing I need to do is to add real interactions that drive this particular interactivity. So that is where we add interactions. Please don't mind this red background. There's no background actually in this particular animation. I think this is a bug on state machines or something. So when you actually render it, it's not going to show any background, as you'll see in a minute. So let's just add real interactions to this, and I've added some here. How do you add interactions? You just go to the interaction bar and then you click on the plus icon, and then there are some types of interactions here. There's click, there's pointer down, there's pointer up, pointer enter, pointer exit. So let me quickly explain some of these interactions. Click is just clicking. So once you click and release, you click on the button, or on your phone you touch and release, that counts as a click. Pointer down means you are clicking and you are holding down your, if you are using a mouse, you are holding down your what's it called, your mouse button, your left mouse button, so to speak. That particular word for that is eluding me at the moment. So once you click and hold down, that is pointer down. Pointer up is once you release your right click. Oh Lord, it's I think your left click. Yeah. So once you click down your left click and you hold it down, that's pointer down. Once you release it, that's pointer up. You understand? So the difference between that and click is those two actions combined is a click. But when you split that into two, you get pointer down and pointer up. Then pointer enter is when you are hovering over something. If you want an action to happen, when you hover over something, you use pointer enter. If you want that particular action to stop, when you exit the hovering mode, that's pointer exit. I'm not sure what this pointer move is. I have not really explored and I've not used it. But these are just some interactions with state machines. But for this particular animation, I just want to use click, good old click. So I'm just going to click on click, and then I'm going to choose the the layer name. So this is where I said it is important for you to have your major buttons or whatever you need to be interactive with in the main scene, because if you don't have them here and you click on this particular menu, what you are going to see is just your pre-composition, your scene. It is called scene in Lottie Creator, but if you are very familiar with After Effects, it's called a pre-composition. So what you are going to see is your pre-composition here. You are not going to be able to select particular layer for interactions. So that is why I said it is important. So you either break your scene or you copy those particular elements that you want interactions to be made with into your main scene in Lottie Creator. So the first thing I want to do is the go button. So this go button here, I want to add a click to it. So what I do is I open this layer name what's it called, the layer name what's it called, option, and then I look for the go button, and it is right here. I've made sure when I was doing my animation, I made sure I name all of the layers so I can easily identify them. So it is very, very important you do that too. So this is it right here. I click on the go button, and then you add an action that works with that particular thing you've just set up. So this is just saying we want an interaction of when somebody clicks on the go button. So what happens after somebody clicks on the go button? That is what you are going to set up with the action tab. Just click on the plus, and then we want it to fire an event. So remember when we are doing our inputs, we set up events. So we wanted to fire an event, and you click on fire event. Then what event do you want it to fire? I want it to fire the event go clicks that we created when we were doing our transitions. And I've already done that before, so I'm not going to repeat it. This is it right here. Then I went ahead to do it for some other interactions too. So from here, I can now start interacting with the layers themselves. I can click on the go button. Then I created another interaction for the driving rectangle. This is it. So this is supposed to be click. I don't want pointer down, so I'm going to change this to click just to be more accurate. It works, but I just want to be accurate. So, and I can now click on driving. I can click on walking. I can switch between the two cards I've created. So it's just the same thing. Just click on plus, the type, use click, find that particular layer. So for the driving the driving card, I have a driving rectangle here. For the walking card, I have a walking rectangle. So I've labeled everything rightly so I can easily identify them. So I've created all of those interactions. Then I added one more interaction for the X button. This is it right here. So a click on the X button is going to fire the event, go to first scene. So that is how I made all of the interactivity of this particular animation. So if I click on the X button here, I go to the first scene of the animation. So now that I've added interactions to my inputs, I can now start actually interacting with layers in the canvas. And if you actually use this in your app, your website, or you embed this on your website, you embed it on your website or use it on your apps, this is going to work just like you've said. Users will be able to fully interact with your animations. You can use this for explainer videos. You can use this in actual apps if you have like a map app. So this is just exploring the possibilities of the Lottie state machines, which is really, really exciting right now. So like I said, this is just like a quick overview, which is not very quick, of this particular animation and what drives the interactivity with Lottie state machines. If you like for me to do like a broader like introduction menu to Lottie Creator, Lottie State Machines, and importing animations from After Effects, adding interactivity with Lottie Creator and Lottie State Machines, please let me know in the comment section. So let me just go through this animation one more time and then I will let you go. So I click on the go button, it moves to this card, and I can click on driving. I can click on walking to transition between the two of them. And once I'm done, I can click on the X button to go back to the beginning of the animation. So that's that for this particular video. Thanks.